Just a few moments into a brand new day here in Moscow, Sunday, August the 6th. My name's Ewan O'Neill. Welcome to the programme. We begin with breaking news this hour. The UN Security Council has unanimously approved new sanctions on North Korea. It will target and restrict North Korean exports to other UN member states in key industries such as metals and food, with the aim to dent the country's economy by around $1 billion per year. North Korean nationals will also see travel limitations put in place and foreign investment blocked. The resolution drafted by the US was in response to North Korea's intensified missile tests. Russia's UN representative has said that sanctions were needed to make North Korea stop its program. He stressed, however, that the sanctions should be the starting point for future dialogue with North Korea.
The Russian Federation has agreed to the resolution on North Korea. We understand the need to stop the nuclear program, which is unacceptable for us. The newly implemented measures against North Korea cannot be an end in themselves, but rather an instrument to get the country into constructive talks.
Let's get expert analysis on this now. We can cross live to Gregory Elick, a member of the advisory board of the Korea Policy Institute. You're very welcome to the program. What's your take on these sanctions? Can they be effective?
Oh, it depends on what you mean by effective. If you're thinking in terms of dialogue, no, if anything, this makes dialogue even less likely than before. But if you mean effective as far as imposing a collective punishment on the entire North Korean population and bringing about the economic collapse of North Korea, then it may be effective. Unfortunately, these UN sanctions are so draconian in nature that they only increase the likelihood of a conflict or increase the tensions at the very least.
Well, I was actually looking about, in terms of the missile program, to try and force North Korea into at least stalling it, if not ending it. In terms of that, will that be likely now in the aftermath of this?
No, quite the opposite. You have to look at why is North Korea on a fast-track missile testing program. It's because it feels threatened. The Trump administration has a belligerent rhetoric aimed at North Korea. And so this is just another way of threatening North Korea by imposing these sanctions and closing off any possibility of dialogue. So North Korea, if anything, is going to accelerate its missile testing program. There's a window of time right now where North Korea does not have an effective deterrent in place. It doesn't have effective means where it's of delivering a nuclear weapon at this point, not until it tests correctly a re-entry vehicle. So there's a window of time where it's vulnerable to attack from the United States. So if anything, it feels like it's going to have to accelerate its program, I feel.
Just on your latter point, let's take a listen together to what the Russian ambassador to the UN just said about foreign intervention into North Korea.
We hope in the sincerity of the assurances given by the U.S. ambassador that the U.S. is not aiming to overthrow the current North Korean regime or for forceful unification or military intervention in the country. But this raises a concern that the point in the resolution proposed by us to uphold that position did not find support from the authors of the resolution.
Right, so essentially Russia was saying that a point added to the resolution should be that this is not about regime change in the Hermit Kingdom. That was not added. What do you make of that additional point not being supported by Washington?
Well, I don't think the United States wants to preclude the possibility of attacking North Korea, not even in terms of a simple statement. Unfortunately, I'm rather disappointed that Russia and China went along with these sanctions, which are so severe in nature, but I believe that Russia and China were probably threatened behind the scenes. So, for instance, in the South Korean media last month, there was a report that at an economic dialogue conference between China and the United States, that U.S. officials threatened the Chinese that if they did not go along with these sanctions, that the U.S. would impose unilaterally sanctions on Chinese companies and individuals that do normal business with North Korea. And I imagine they did similar threats against Russia.
Are these sanctions any different to the previous one levelled at Pyongyang from what you've seen?
Yeah, so this is deliberately targeted at hitting the North Korean economy. So it's expected that it bans exports of seafood, coal, iron ore, lead ore. These are major part of North Korea's exports. So it's definitely aiming at inducing a financial collapse. And it also prohibits new joint ventures and prohibits the new investment in existing joint ventures, which effectively kills off any chance of the reopening of the Kaesong industrial complex.
Okay.
It also bans North Korea from increasing the number of its workers abroad. So it's an economic target across the board.
Okay, thanks very much for your take this hour. Gregory Elick, member of the advisory board of the Korea Policy Institute.